Hi everyone, I'm Sandy, and today I have a tag for you for Tag Tuesday. It's been a very long day today, and I will try and get this done. I recorded this once, but I didn't turn my microphone on because yeah, it's just been that kind of a day today. But the tag that I'm going to do is the Book Palate Tag. The Book Palate Tag was created by Fraser Simon at Springboard Thought, and I think this is a wonderful tag. It's his first original tag, and Fraser actually tagged me to do it, so I really wanted to make sure I got it done as quickly as possible, though not as quick as I had hoped to do. I was also tagged by Jack over at the Rambling Raconteur, and both of these channels are wonderful. If you're not familiar with Fraser and Jack, you should absolutely go check them out. I will leave them both linked in the description below. But yeah, I'm excited to do this one. So thank you again, Fraser, for tagging me in it. I really do appreciate it quite a bit. I keep wanting to call you Simon. That's your last name, I believe. Fraser. I'm not going to call you Simon, I promise. All right, so there are 8 prompts in this, and it's a fairly simple or fairly straightforward one. And some of the prompts are optional. So let's jump right into it. The first one is sweet. What is a book that made you excited to read more by that author? So for me, I've been reading so many books off of the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list, and it comes with a bunch of authors that you read and go, no, I never want to read another one, or a couple that are just surprises. And this year, the surprise author that I had was George Eliot. And I started with reading Silas Marner, which is about a weaver, and I really enjoyed Silas Marner, but the book that has made me want to pick up more of George Eliot is actually Adam Bede. So Adam Bede was an absolute delight. I read it over the summer, and came a point in this book where I couldn't put it down. I needed to find out what happened, needed to find out what decisions this characters would make and how it would impact them. The ending wasn't my favorite, and there's some dialect in this that was really tough, but I loved the character development that Eliot did with her characters in there, and just really, really loved this book and made me want to read so much more by George Eliot. I think there's about 4 more books of Eliot's, maybe, is that true? 3 or 4 maybe, books left on the 1001 book countdown. So I'm excited to get to more, but I would have never discovered George Eliot had I not been reading off of that list. And so, yeah, George Eliot, Adam Bede is the book. Prompt number 2 is sour. What book did you initially dislike, but after a reread, you reversed your opinion on? Or what is a book you loved at one time, but after rereading it, have found it lacking in some way? So this is one of those prompts that I'm going to change it, of course. And the way I'm going to change it is actually, what book did I initially dislike that I think I need to have a reread to see if I change my opinion? And the book is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. Oh my gosh. This is a book that my nephew recommended to me and is on the 1001 book countdown, by the way. And my nephew has exceptional taste in books. He recommended East of Eden to me by Steinbeck, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And this book, I did not like it. And I'm so curious if people have read this, why you like this book. I had to read the first chapter so many times, and then it just is a bunch of disconnected stories in here. And I think for me, that's something that I know AJ Dunn had commented. If I have a story with like too many different characters or characters that bump around, I don't necessarily like this and this, like the book. And that is the case with this one, that it is very chopped up. But I keep wanting to figure out, what am I missing with this book? I feel like there should be something. I know a lot of people love this, including, like I said, my nephew. So this is a book that I initially disliked that I'm hoping to reread, and maybe it will change my opinion. Maybe. We'll see. But that's my twisted answer for that one. Bitter. What is a book that you feel is underrated, attacked unjustly by popular or mainstream opinion, or simply misunderstood in some way? Bonus point if it is not a book anyone else has mentioned already. So I know no one has mentioned this book because this is the reason why I picked it. This is not attacked unjustly or anything like that. It is more, I never hear it talked about. Like, ever on BookTube, and I don't really know why. And the book is Animals, People by Indra Sinha. This is a book I read right at the start of my YouTube channel, which was for the countdown. It was for the Asian readathon for an Asian protagonist, and Animal is a boy whose back has been mangled because of a very tragic chemical spill in the town that he lives in, and he walks hunched over on all fours like, you know, an animal. And he kind of owns the name Animal. He says it stuck to him like mud. I was worried about the name and whether the name would really cause me problems, but Animal is a foul-mouthed, sex-obsessed person, and he still is incredibly likable. And he has a doctor that comes to town who gives him some hope that maybe he can be fixed. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is in this book, and it is all about hope. And so the quote is actually, "Hope dies in places like this because hope lives in the future, and there's no future here. How can you think about tomorrow when all your strength is used up trying to get through today?" And so that quote has stuck with me for months. I read this in May, and I still think about that quote from time to time in this particular book. This book is also very hard to get your hands on. I couldn't get it at the library. I couldn't get it as an ebook. I had to order the physical book, and I think it was only available on, if I remember right, it was only available at the time maybe on, you know, a giant online retailer, which is not my preferred place to shop. But I'm not sure why. It also, I believe, it was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize, and it says it was winner of the Commonwealth Writers Prize, Best Book Europe and South Asia. And so it had some acclaim when it first came out, but why don't I hear anything about it now? It was published in 2007. And so this is the one that I feel like is really underrated, even though it had some acclaim when it first came out. I never hear people talking about this one on BookTube. So that's my one for this, Animals, People. All right. Salty. What is a book that changed how you thought about or related to other people, or that made you realize something about yourself you were not aware of previously? I don't know that I have a good book for this one. I think that one of the things that I would say that changed how I think about myself is actually starting BookTube. Before I started BookTube, I actually thought I read a lot and that I had read a lot of books and a lot of different kind of books. And then when I came on BookTube, I just realized how diverse and how broad people read, and not even necessarily about the number of books, but that the books I had been reading were in kind of a little box, and that BookTube in general completely changed my perspective in that I am reading more diverse authors. I am reading even this month, I'll be reading Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. So a book that I would have never picked up before BookTube. And this isn't one that's on the 1001 book countdown. So I definitely would have never picked this up. So yeah, BookTube I think is the one that changed my perspective of myself as a reader. And like I said, it's not about the number of books, it's how diverse I was reading or how broad I was reading. And I just wasn't as, to use a kind of overused term, well-read, even though I thought I really had read quite a bit. And so, yeah, that was an interesting revelation, but it wasn't really a book. It was more BookTube that did that. So I am very thankful for joining BookTube because I feel like it has completely changed my reading, or not completely changed, but changed my reading quite drastically in the books that I would have never picked up. And so I'm very thankful to all of you and to all of the other creators out there that are giving me amazing book recommendations. So, all right, I'm done being sappy. All right, optional prompts for the connoisseur. Treat the following prompt as if they were different foods, palates varying depending on what you're consuming, i.e. choose as many as you like. All right, So the sophisticated palette, I'm definitely going to do that one. Choose a book from your favorite subgenre or that has had your favorite trope or motif. Or just go off regarding a bookish nerdy thing you like slash enjoy. I don't know if I have a bookish nerdy thing I like slash enjoy. My favorite genre is murder mystery, without a doubt. And my favorite book is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And my favorite trope that is in this is the locked room trope, I think is what it's called. All of these people are locked on this island or stuck on this island because there is a storm and they cannot get off, and a murder occurs, and everyone is trying to figure out what happened, who did it, what's going on, and then more and more things occur, and you as a reader cannot figure out, or I could not figure out, I don't want to say you couldn't figure out, I could not figure out who had done it. There have been some complaints about this book about the ending having to kind of explain too much of it, and that's certainly true. It does have to do that because it is one that is very complicated in the idea of what happens, but it is the book that I credit with getting me to read more in my 20s. It is the first Agatha Christie I had picked up, and it led to me reading more and more books, and then led me to read, not that this is related, but led me to read The Count of Monte Cristo, and really discovering classic authors, different genres. And yeah, so Agatha Christie, this one will always be at the top of kind of my definitely my murder mystery Agatha Christie list. All right, unrefined palette. What is a book or genre that you consider a guilty pleasure? And then he puts in here, though you shouldn't feel actually guilty about reading anything really, but hopefully you know what I mean. I think that's really funny. So for me, it's the genre that I used to read a lot, and I would read this primarily in ebook form, and it was romance actually, and I did not discriminate. I would read just about any different kind of romance, and free books or low-cost books on iBooks, as well as checking books out at the library. I definitely would read a ton of that, and that is the romance genre in here. And this is my iPad, so it has my iBooks library on it. Sorry. And you can always tell the romance covers because there's either someone without a shirt or there's people kissing on the cover. And so as I go through this, you can see a very high number of those, mixed in with, a classic or two, and the Midnight Library's on here. But those are kind of few and far between of all the romance novels. And as you go farther down, there are even more in here. And so this is what I would refer to not as a guilty pleasure, but kind of as brain candy. I love when I just need something that is completely unrealistic and fun, and I just want to escape for a moment. This is what I would read. And unfortunately, after I started BookTube, I have become so overcommitted with my TBRs and my buddy reads and my group reads that I have not had a chance to read much of it. Maybe at the end of this year, maybe in my last week or so, I'll pick some up just to pick some up. But it was for a long time what I read, just kind of, it was my go-to thing. Whenever I wanted to read anything, I would read that. And so BookTube has made me definitely, like I said, a more broad reader, where I'm reading just a wide variety of different books now. But that is my guilty pleasure or my brain candy. And yeah, I have lots of different ones to choose from. If I ever want to go back and read some, I probably could reread those. No. So eclectic palette, what are the top 3 genres that you typically read or gravitate towards? Murder mystery, classics definitely are on there, and then just general fiction, really. Those tend to be the ones that I gravitate towards outside of, my guilty pleasure romance addiction. I tried to do these are the top books that Goodreads has said I've read, and like 7 of them were romance novels, and I went, maybe I won't do that. Maybe I will at some point, but yeah, maybe not. But those tend to be the ones that I would gravitate towards. Obviously, I'm reading more off the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list, which isn't genre specific. It'd be interesting to see the genres from that list and kind of the mix of it, but that doesn't really qualify for that. Okay. Maturing palette. What is a genre you've read little or none of, but would like to sample more? What book, if any, prompted this? So if you watch my channel with any kind of regularity, I don't read a lot of sci-fi. Sci-fi has always been a problem for me. I did read Dune. When did I read it? September? October? I don't remember. I did read Dune fairly recently, but it took me 4 tries to read Dune. But lately I've been reading a lot of different kinds of sci-fi. So I read Project Hail Mary and loved it. I had read The Martian before and loved it. I read the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, loved it. I also have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers sitting on my shelf in the closet back there that I would love to read, as well as some Ursula K. Le Guin. So yeah, the books that really recently I've read that made me want to dip more into that genre were Project Hail Mary and the Murderbot Diaries. And so hoping to be able to read some more sci-fi, but there's not a lot of sci-fi on the 1001 book countdown, which is really interesting. There's only a few, but yeah, there's only a few. Doesn't mean I can't read them. I've been so busy. So yeah, it's not great. So maybe I should plan a month in 2022 that is all just romance and all just sci-fi, and that's all I read in that month. That would be an interesting month for sure. All right, so that is actually the end of the tags, and I am going to tag a few people. I have my little jar here, so we're just going to go ahead and draw a few names out of here to tag some people to do this one. And I know a lot of people have done this, so if you've already done this, I apologize. You can, hopefully you haven't and you choose to do it, because it is a fun one. All right, the first one is Courtney Ferreter. I don't think Courtney has done this one yet, so Courtney, you are tagged. And then the next one is going to be Duncan McCurdy. I don't think you have done this one yet either. So Duncan, you are tagged. The last one is going to be Bottle Imp Books. And so I don't know if he's posted a video recently, but if not, definitely you are tagged in this. So a few people I don't normally tag, which is great, which is why I like pulling from the jar. So, but Courtney Ferreter, who I just did a buddy read with, and then I have Duncan McCurdy, who, poor person, I gave the name Agatha Christie in his Read Everything by an Author challenge, and he's working his way through that. And Matthew at Bottle Imp Books, which we had done, I believe it was the Reading Europe challenge with Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. So those are the 3 that I'm going to go ahead and tag today. I hope you like this. I hope I didn't have too much glare on my glasses today. We'll see. And with that, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone. Thanks. Bye.